So I have these small objects, right? These are all pretty small objects that can easily fit in the palm of your hand, right? When it comes to, when you guys do this project on your own, these are the types of objects that I kind of want you guys to think about using. So like keys also are an important thing, right? Keychains, obviously not all of the keys, but like choose one or a section of whatever is on your keychain, right? Think of little objects like this. What I don't want people to draw are phones. Couple reasons why I don't want you to draw phones. Super boring, rectangle, and it's actually harder to draw a phone. Why? Because our phones have reflections on it, on the screens, and people just think, oh, it's solid black, let me just go ahead and shade it black. And it looks nothing like a phone when they are done drawing it. What it looks like, it just looks like a rectangle that someone filled in, right? So a phone is actually more difficult than you think of, because part of the goal for this project is making sure that you are drawing things as realistic as possible, right? So we're gonna draw this pair of scissors. The other three objects that I wanted to show you are this button, right? And these like beads or these stars. People also think that these are super easy, but what I want you to notice is we're also gonna be drawing shadows, right? And the thickness of the objects as well, that people tend to forget, right? So this button, you see how the shadow varies in thickness and parts of the button are darker than the others. So that's kind of the thing that I'm gonna show you guys how to do today, right? But we're gonna do it with the pair of scissors. All right, we're gonna make our drawing slightly bigger than the actual object sitting in front of us. And we're gonna start with the handle up here and draw the handle a little bigger so that you can see it, right? And also because when you guys draw your objects on your own, they're gonna be slightly bigger as well, right? So we're gonna start here. The first step that I do, you guys don't have to write this, but I wanna show you or write it down so you can see it and remember what we're doing. So first thing is we do the line drawing. And I want you guys to think about back to contour, where you're picking up all of the edges. You're drawing everything you see, right? So whatever your eyes see, your hand is picking up. But in this case, we're looking at the object the whole time, and we're also looking at our drawing the whole time. So we're switching back and forth, right? Okay, I'm gonna do like that. Okay, so we're gonna start here, and I'm gonna go around and just draw the outline of that handle. Keep in mind that we still have a lot of things inside. We still have this bump in there, and there's these little edges and details, right? So I'm gonna start here with this line. People online, you guys are good, right? Or do you guys have any questions before I start? Okay. So I'm gonna go over here, and this is going to be at a slight angle, like this. I'm drawing it darker so that you guys can see it up on the screen. You guys should draw it lighter, okay? Tim, you need a piece of paper and a pencil. And then what you're gonna do, so that's at an angle, that's this line right here, okay? And remember, I'm drawing it big, we are drawing it bigger, so it's like we're zooming in, right? Okay, so it goes there, and then it curves up. So this curve in here is this, okay? Remember, you're drawing it much lighter than I am in case you make mistakes like I already am, and then it makes it easier for you to erase it. Remember, this is basically the outline of our handle that we're doing. Okay, I'm going to erase this little line. And then it goes, let me make it a little longer or wider. And then I'm gonna leave this divot out in a minute because all I'm gonna do is draw this line going through it, okay? And since I made this loop bigger, that means this is going to be bigger as well. That's why right now it's not really matching up. So I'm going to drop it down a little bit more and go in. Actually, it should be more straight. Sorry, I'm drawing it at an angle. I'm not looking at it straight down. So that's why it's a little off. But not a problem. Let me fix that. Goes in. Notice this divot here is that. Right? Just a slight divot, and then it goes this way. So now I can fix that. And this should be more in. If you look at the object, see how this line is straight across? And on mine it was at an angle, so that's why I'm fixing it. Okay. And we will draw this little nub in a minute. When you guys are doing this at home for your own objects, you will be making sure that A, you're drawing the same object. Number two, if you're sitting in front of a window, you need to make sure you sit there every single time and you look at that object, because the lighting changes where you're sitting. Right now, there's no light on top of me, but there's lights around me, which bring in different shadows, right? So please be aware of that when you guys are drawing your own objects. All right, this is the general outline of this handle up here, okay? All right, so now we're able to move. So now we're gonna do this inside loop, okay? Now notice how it's thicker and thinner in certain areas. It's super thin here, and it's darker or wider in here, and then it thins out again, right? So I want you to keep that in mind as well. All right, I'm gonna start down here where it's pretty thin and it hugs that bottom line, this one right here, okay? And then it gets a little thicker on the edge of the handle here. And same thing up here. And then it thins out and goes back to there, right? Everyone still with me? Yeah. Right now, this opening looks huge. But remember, we still have the thickness of the handle, and we still have the shadow and all the little highlights that we have in it. Okay? All right. Again, I'm making it darker so that you guys can see it on the screen fine. You should be drawing it lighter. Okay. Now, can you guys see this little line here? No? Okay, here, let me zoom in so you guys can see it a little. See that little line there? Right in there. It's super thin and it's super subtle, but it's there. So I'm going to make that show up on my drawing. And it starts from here. And then it just shoots out this way. And it's more predominant here, and then it just fades out. So I'm going to stop it there, because then it just fades out, right? Okay, let's go ahead and do the thickness of the handle in here. So common mistake that people do, they're like, oh, I can see the thickness, and I'm just gonna do another huge circle. That is actually the wrong way of doing the thickness of it, because right now, you can't see the thickness of the handle in here. It's just the top of it. But you can see the thickness over here, because the way the camera is set up and the way you're looking at it, you can see more of it there. So this is incorrect. So when people do that and they just make a whole nother outline inside of the object and say that's the thickness, it tells me that people aren't paying attention to the actual object. All right, so the thickness of it, we see a little bit in here, and it starts here, and then it goes and touches this part. So that's the thickness right here of this. Okay? And then we see the thickness again show up here. And then it disappears and connects to this part of the handle. Okay? Like that. Right? And you should start to see how it's starting to take shape. Right? Okay. Now let's go ahead and do the thickness of this part of the handle. And this is where we're going to add the little nub here. Okay. All right. So what I want you to notice is that when I do the thickness here, it's not just straight down. That's the common thing that people will do. It is actually at a slight angle. Right? And then it goes this way. I'm going to make it a little thinner. It's not that thick. Like that. And then this way, it hugs this little divot there. And it gets a little thinner along this part of the handle. Let me go ahead and I'll do this little nub there. That comes out of here. And it does come straight down and then it curves. And then same thing on the other side. So I'm going to show you what sometimes people do when they draw the thickness of this nub, is they'll do this. Again, because people think you're just making an outline. That is not how that should look. If you look here, the thickness stops there at the nub itself. So it just goes straight into it like that. And then it starts up again right in here. Just, again, a little angled line. And then it goes and drops that way. Right? And then it just meets up with the other side of that nub. Right? And then the thickness on this side, it's almost like if this line were to go straight through it and show up on the other end. And then it goes this way. There. So there's the thickness of this part of the handle. There's the thickness of the loop, inside loop, in here and in there. Right? Let's go ahead and draw the shadow. So in this case, our shadow, is it darker or lighter than the object? What do you guys think? Is the shadow darker or lighter than the object? Yeah. Yes. And the reason, so remember when we did the ball, we did the cylinder and the cone, I always said the shadow is always darker? Well, in this case, it's not, because the object is super dark and the paper that it's on is super bright, right? So that's why the shadow is actually lighter. So we have two shadows. We have this one here, which is darker, and then we have this one here, which is lighter, right? So we're going to go ahead and draw those. And it's almost mimicking the thickness that we drew earlier. So it goes here, that's the shadow, the dark one. And then this one is going to be the lighter one that then connects with the darker shadow. Okay? So I want you guys to notice how many lines we have in this little one section, right? So please be aware of that. Okay. Is there anything wrong with this handle compared to the actual scissors? If you look at my drawing and look at this part, is there anything wrong that you see with my drawing that looks maybe inaccurate? There is one thing. I just want to see if you guys can see it. Anyone online? No one? Come on. this Araceli is pretty good. This part. You guys see how thick this is compared to this over here? Yeah, it should be a little thinner. So that means that this curve is not curved enough. So I'm going to drop it down more. It should be more like this. See that? That little change made a huge difference. And now it looks more proportional. And then keep in mind, the drawing itself is slightly bigger than the actual scissors. All right?